Presenting this morning is Brendan Flood, CEO and Chairman of Staffing 360 Solutions. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody, and welcome to Las Vegas. As you heard, my name is Brendan Flood. I'm the Chairman and CEO of Staffing 360 Solutions, Inc. The world of work has changed. Employers are demanding a greater degree of flexibility from their employees. Employees are demanding a greater degree of flexibility from their employers. And Staffing 360 is in the middle of all of this. What you're going to hear over the next 20 minutes or so is, what does it look like to be in the middle of this? How can we make money from it? How can we ensure that what our clients need is delivered by us in a different way to the way in which they've been used to having it delivered to them in the past? Additionally, we'll talk about the manner in which employees now demand different things from their employer, demand a different working environment, demand a different way of talking to employment agencies so that they can find the job of their dream, or at least the job of their dream for the next 6 months before the next dream kicks in. So we are listed on NASDAQ. We're still an emerging public company. We operate in the United States and the United Kingdom. We are generally subject matter experts in all of the areas in which we provide services. We do not do generalist. If somebody rings up and says, hey, can you provide me with an accounts payable clerk in Abu Dhabi, we'll tell them to ring Manpower. Headquartered in New York. On average, across the year, we have at least 6,000 paid employees operating at our client sites. It's a little bit seasonal. The first quarter is about 5,000. The fourth quarter, it'll be about 7,500. The pipeline of opportunities we have this year, excluding acquisitions, would suggest that our average for 2023 is going to be closer to 7,000 than it will be to 6,000. In May of 2022, we acquired a company called Headway Workforce Solutions, based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. It added the best part of $100 million to our top line. But what it most importantly added to us was an advancement on the strategy that Staffing 360 Solutions had been following, which was to move more and more away from a bricks and mortar operation to a virtual model. That entire $100 million for Headway Workforce Solutions was provided from one office in Raleigh, North Carolina. It placed people in all 50 states of the Union, plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. And as an organization, we had been moving towards that model for the last couple of years. COVID didn't help our progress. But by acquiring Headway, we leapfrogged our strategy by about 3 to 5 years. The products that we provide are generally split in 3 ways. Direct hire or permanent placement. So you hire somebody who's a permanent employee of your organization. We do that. We'd like to do more of it, and it's becoming more and more of a part of what we do. Temporary staffing, which is still the largest piece of our organization, and it also is the part that gives us greater transparency looking forward. Because typically, if we place somebody in light industrial, they're working there for 3 to 4 months. If we place somebody in professional staffing, they're working there for 6 months to 3 years. So we have a greater view of our forward-looking revenue stream through temporary staffing than we do through direct hire. And as a large addition of the Headway acquisition, we've moved more into employer solutions. More and more employers don't want the hassle of working through what has Massachusetts now passed in legislation, what has California now passed in legislation. They'll go Headway, Staffing 360, you deal with it. So a lot of our employees now become Headway's employees or Staffing 360's employees. And we have to deal with the payroll, we deal with the benefits administration, we deal with all the tax returns, we deal with all of the legislative changes. And anybody who's older than maybe 6 months of age will probably know that the complexity of tax rulings are not getting easier. So there are more rules. The state of Massachusetts decided to put its SUTA rates up to 11% this year to try and recover the money that it lost during COVID. And these things just happen state by state, state by state. And we have to keep abreast of it, and we keep abreast of it on behalf of our clients. We operate out of the United States and the United Kingdom through 8 different brands, and they all have their own places in the market. The United States is the largest staffing market in the world. The United Kingdom is the 3rd largest staffing market in the world. The pie is Japan, and we took the view that Japan is just too far away for us to deal with. So we're in the 2 largest market, and we'll operate solely from there. So this is a broad split of how we make our money. And this will obviously get updated once we file our 10K. So what it shows you is the 3 segments within which we operate: commercial staffing, which is light industrial, professional staffing in the US, and professional staffing in the UK. Now, with the acquisition of Headway, that professional staffing in the US as a proportion of the total will go up. And where it will eat from is the commercial staffing share. Now, the great thing about having a commercial staffing business is that clients generally pay you when clients should pay you. So it becomes a great cash cow to fund the other segments within our operation. What this slide basically tells you is that the market is becoming more and more dependent upon technology. People looking for a job now want to find it on the phone. They don't want to go into the laptop. They certainly are not going to look for a help wanted ad in the newspaper. So if you don't have sufficient technology that can ping a message to a candidate that says, Jimmy, we've got a job as a budget accountant starting on Monday in zip code 06484. Are you interested? Yes, no. Then you will not succeed, or you will be left behind. Because unless people can see it on that phone, they're not going to look for it. So what this is telling us is that, as I mentioned before, we place candidates in all 50 states. On the Staffing 360 Solutions legacy side, what we did about 18 months ago was to plot all of the clients we had along the East Coast. All of our branches were from Rhode Island down to North Carolina. And then we plotted where do those clients have operations throughout the rest of the United States. And we've been working our way through introductions to those clients and placements with those clients without having to create an additional physical presence in any of those states. The UK operation places people, so we have 2 offices in the UK. Those of you who are familiar with London, we have one near the Bank of England, and we have another one in Red Hill, which is beside Gatwick Airport. And we place people in about 17 different countries out of those operations. And we have no intentions of creating a physical footprint in any of those other countries. Most importantly, to make this all work, we have to have sticky account relationships. You know, every so often, and we've just done the UK one, we're going to do the US one in a couple of weeks' time. We look at our top 20 clients, and the people who look after those clients come and make a presentation to the executive team as to what do the relationships look like, how many people do you touch, how often do you touch it, what would they say about you, and then we actually go and ask the client, what would you say about them? And we're very lucky that probably 75% of our top clients have been with us for 10 years or more. Firstly, it means that they appreciate what we do for them. But secondly, it gives us a greater degree of transparency as to what the future is going to look like. You know, there are a couple of things that we look at every time we make an acquisition, and one of them is, what do your 10 largest customers look like this year? What do they look like last year? What do they look like the year before? And if the names keep changing, then it doesn't matter what somebody's telling you about wonderful relationships. they're selling on price. And if you're selling on price rather than quality, then somebody will come and sell at a cheaper price. And that's why the list of names keeps changing. One of the greater benefits, we are under as much margin pressure as probably anybody who's presenting in these 2 days. Clients are always looking for ways to save money. And similarly, we look for ways to save money. So if we can save on the delivery cost by, for example, placing all of these people out of one office in Raleigh, North Carolina, rather than one office in each of the 50 states, then there's a significant reduction in our overhead base. What we've also moved away from are the significantly large commission programs that have been inherent within this industry for years. So we have a centralized recruiting hub. The salespeople continue to get commissions, but the centralized recruiting hub gets paid bonuses based upon the percentage delivery of their particular projects. So our human cost has come down, our physical location cost has come down, our technology use has gone up, and I think you're going to see over the course of the next several quarters of our results that that's actually having a very positive impact. So during COVID-19, everybody was in lockdown. Clients were in lockdown, we were in lockdown. The level of communication changed enormously. The amount of time that we spent talking to our people, there were days when I went to bed and while cleaning my teeth, looking in the mirror, I'd say, so Brendan, what did you actually do today other than appear on 25 different Zoom calls so that people could see the CEO and that the CEO is still alive and that there's no palace coup going on anywhere? It was amazing the amount of engagement that our employees got from the level of communication that we had. We have 255 internal employees on top of the 6,000 or so external ones. I challenged everybody to get to know 50 people who you didn't already know, either through the Zoom training that we were providing, or the update calls, or collaboration works with some clients who are in both the US and the UK. And it is amazing what it did for trying to, bring everybody together, to make everybody feel part of Staffing 360 rather than some subsidiary brand that they were with before. So invest in our people. I'm going to tell you in a moment about constantly strengthening our financial position. But we will spend more and more money making sure that our technology is what our candidates want to see. And the reporting capability of our technology is what our clients want to see. Almost everything that we have is in the cloud. I think we have one stray server in shared service center in Shelton, Connecticut. It won't be very much longer, but practically everything we have is in the cloud. We can access it from anywhere. Please don't anybody come up and ask me to slap out my laptop and show you that, because I'm probably the least technical person in this room. I can just about tell that the right arrow moves the slides on forward and the left arrow might bring them backwards. We like winning awards, and we win a lot of them. But there are certain prestigious ones that are voted on by our clients. And in the US, it's run by Clearly Rated. And in the UK, it's run by FIFO. And we've been winning these every year. And every time we acquire a brand, we bring them through an understanding of how important this is. And certain internal things might need to change in order to ensure that, if you haven't spoken to a client in a month, then you've either been on vacation or you've died or something, because there's no way you should allow any relationship to go on that long without talking to them. So we have two ways of expanding our valuation. One is organic growth. Some of the statistics up here are about the size of the market. The entire global market is worth over $600 billion, but interestingly, the US market is worth over $200 billion per annum. In the US, we do about 200 million. So we are a fraction of 1%. We could become 2 fractions of a fraction of 1%. and still barely scratch the surface of anything we're trying to achieve here. So this is our growth strategy. I'm not going to go through it all, but principally it's driven by organic growth with existing clients or new clients, or it's driven by acquisitive action within the United States and the United Kingdom. When it comes to acquisitions, we do keep a keen eye out for a good deal. Now, I would say that in all the acquisitions that we've done in the history of the company, we probably overpaid for one. And we probably materially underpaid for every other one of them. And I always think that acquisition work it starts off as science. So you look at financial statements and you say, okay, it's going to be an X multiple. Then it becomes a horse trade where that X might work for you, but it doesn't work for the person on the other side of the room. So you go through a negotiation prospect, and then we get to a number, and then everybody post-rationalizes it by bringing it back to science. So I can go back to my board and say I bought it for the same multiple that we went out for. And the seller can go to his or her investors and say, hey, I got it for several multiples more than we started off. And so long as everybody leaves the room happy and everybody can win, then there's no harm, no foul. Now, we do target that we're going to materially increase the adjusted EBITDA of every acquisition that we make. And the bigger we get, the easier that is. And I'll give you an example. One of the largest costs that we have outside of people is workers' compensation insurance. And Staffing 360 Solutions typically incurs about $2.4 million a year in premia. Headway Workforce Solutions was incurring $1.2 million per year in premia. When we renewed the policy at the 1st of January 2023, the combined new policy was $2.4 million. So just based on scale, we saved ourselves $1.2 million. If we continue to buy in that way, one of the largest ways of integrating without having to terminate people, without having to reassign them, is just to fix our insurance premium in the background. So we got some visible results. We have gone public in saying that we want to be a profitable $500 million revenue business. Now, we're roughly at $300 million now. It doesn't take a lot of acquisitions and a lot of organic growth to go from $300 million to $500 million. And I'm probably going to get slapped by our legal team, but I know that when we get to $500 million, we'll just say we're going for $750 billion, and when we get to $750 billion, we'll say we're going for $1 billion. But we are on track for our first post-COVID 12-month period of delivering approximately $9 million of adjusted EBITDA. So our balance sheet is, it's got about $20 million of equity on it right now. Our market cap is $4 to $5 million. There is a material gap between the manner in which the markets are valuing Staffing 360 and the manner in which just our financial statements are valuing Staffing 360. Now, some of that will correct itself over time. It'll be down to us to show how we can improve these things. But the middle one is quite interesting. We have fixed-term debt now of about $9.4 million. 2 years ago, it was at $70 million. The Headway acquisition had $25 million on its balance sheet. It now has zero. And myself and JP Seiki, who's the CEO, or was the CEO of Headway, we worked together in re-engineering that balance sheet to make it fit for acquisition. So collectively, we've gone from $95 million down to $9.4 million. And we've consolidated our asset-backed lending facility, which saves some money, but it's not a solution to world hunger. So a lot of our clients, in addition to more flexibility, are demanding greater reporting needs, particularly on the employer of record side, where they've basically given us all of their employees to become our employees. So we have to give them the sort of data that they would have had or might have had or certainly would have wanted when those employees were theirs. So we have to develop a lot of reporting capabilities, a lot of systems initiatives to provide it. We've probably spent the best part of $1 million internally on IT developments in the last 12 months, just to make sure that things were as seamless and as streamless for our clients and our candidates as it possibly could be. Now, when this slide was produced, it said materially reduced workers' compensation costs of $450,000. I've just told you that's now $1.2 million. So we've improved fairly immeasurably as we've integrated these two businesses. The right-hand side of this, it'll show you that we are forecasting, and this is a matter of public record, so that we will do $11 million of adjusted EBITDA in 2023. Now, if you take that, the reported number for 2022 is about $7 million, and we've got about $3.5 million of integration savings in bringing Headway into the game, then I think that $11 million is a relatively conservative forecast. So our cap table as it stands today has about 5 million shares in issue. It has 350,000 of Series H preference shares. Options are neither here nor there. So our fully diluted cap table is probably more like about 8.5 to 9 million shares, should everybody exercise the warrants that they have. So there are a lot of macro trends that we are riding, most of which are technology focused, a lot of which are candidate focused. So as I mentioned earlier, if candidates can't get access to a job through their phone, they're not that interested. They have a relatively short attention span, so you have to get it to them quickly. You have to have a relatively short message. They have to be able to respond to it really quickly. You need to respond to their response very quickly. So there's a lot of stuff that we're riding right now. But we need to underpin it and continue to underpin it with close client relationships by continuing to provide those candidates when the client needs them and rolling them on, rolling them off. Our intention through our acquisitions going forward, mature staffing businesses typically do somewhere, particularly if they are temporary staffing driven, somewhere between 5% and 10% adjusted EBITDA margin. We're currently at about 2.9%, so we have some way to go. But as we acquire bigger things and we integrate them in the same way as we've integrated Headway, 5 to 10% is eminently achievable. And if you take the middle point of, say, 7.5%, we get the 500 million number. We'll be making somewhere in the region of $35 to $40 million of adjusted EBITDA. So that's it. I thank you very much for listening. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Percent volumes in the U.S. in Q1, I think. What do you guys see out there?
Okay. So the question for the purpose of the recording is, what am I seeing in terms of U.S. trends and job openings? So there is a degree of cyclicality in the job market, which we all go through. And to assume that it doesn't recover would most likely be a false assumption, because it always does. You're absolutely right. Both Randstad and TrueBlue issued numbers this week, and they were both in the light industrial space. And they were both down, I think it was probably more like 16% in the first quarter year over year. We are most certainly seeing some challenges in our light industrial sector. Now, as I mentioned, the first quarter is seasonally always the slowest, because a lot of what we do is in food manufacturing. People eat an awful lot more between November and the end of December than they do in the first quarter, where they're all trying to get rid of the 5-10 pounds that they put on over the holiday period. So it is sometimes difficult to see which is the seasonality bit and which is the cyclicality bit. If Manpower are seeing 16% decline, then in the near term there is a decline. We are hearing from some clients that their inventories are too high, so they want to produce less and bring it back a little bit. But on the counter to that, on the professional staffing side, we are going gangbusters. You know, we have probably got a larger order book than we've ever had in the history of the company. We have got larger client meeting numbers than we've ever had in the history of the company. We have probably signed more contracts in professional staffing than we ever did in the history of the company. So while the light industrial side is for sure somewhat challenged and it meets the numbers that you quoted, the professional side, I think this is going to be the biggest year we've ever had. So it's quite interesting. We had a leadership team meeting last week, and our travel and entertainment line of the P&L account is up 100% year on year. Still not a huge number, but I describe that as a first world problem. That means people are getting out there and meeting again. Hospitality, we've never really been in. It's a small part of the Headway business, and it went down to 0 during COVID. So they're having quite an uptick, but it's not an area that we're going to specialize in. Okay, so I'm told we have 1 minute left. Does anybody have one other question? Okay, again, thank you all very much for listening. I appreciate your attendance.